everybody. My name is Ashley, and I think I'm going to call this segment the human experience, something like that, because I'm going to be starting to have on some people that are just having their human experience and helping others to have a better human experience and just getting some different things going for you guys. So, hey guys, good to see you. I actually have today an amazing person. She was one of my coaches in life and helped me see a lot of things. She helps people like you figure out core needs and wants and what they are so that you can help, so she can help you identify and actually clearly communicate those things to your partner in your relationships, whether that's romantic or otherwise. I love this girl. She has taught me so much about attachment styles in general. She's going to be so good she's going to give us some tips and tricks on how to move from the insecure attachment styles, like avoidant and anxious. If you guys aren't familiar with those, we'll go over those a little bit, into the secure attachment styles. So let's see if we can get her on here. We're talking to Erica Wright, relationship expert and coach. Let's see where she's at. Erica, let's see, can you on here join the conversation?
Oh, I think
Woo! Hello. How's it going?
Good. How are you, babe? I mean, we've been talking,
Amazing.
But I'm so excited.
I know. This is great. You look like a goddess over there.
Oh, thank you. I tried to dress up for you. I know.
I love it.
Big day.
Perfect. How's my sound? Should I put in my AirPods or is this okay?
I can hear you clearly. I don't know. Do you need to be more?
Well, I guess I could grab them just in case.
Run. Let's do it. I'll do a little dance for everybody in the meantime. I swear, this is like, woo! My mom always does this. She's like, okay, things are awkward. Let's dance.
I can hear you better. This will do. Oh yeah, this we're in business. Okay,
beautiful.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited to just jam with you and dive into some of this stuff.
I know. I'm so excited. I have like so many questions for you. Honestly, I feel like just a little background, a little bit more. Do you want to tell them how we met, or do you want me to tell them?
You tell them.
Okay.
I'll chime in.
Okay. So me and Erica, we're both, really like to challenge ourselves, and we like to get out there and see what we can do to improve our everyday life. So we actually met through this company called Landmark, which is a self-development course. And Erica had started way earlier than me, I believe. I don't know, somewhere close to a little bit earlier than me at least. And ended up being one of my coaches actually at, what was it? Was it SEO? No, it wasn't SEO. It was SELP.
Yes, it was SELP, exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. And then, so from there, Erica was my coach. She's seen me cry my eyes out, talk about crawling out of my skin, all this other stuff, and went through actually a huge breakup with me and everything. And she basically coached me through it and made me like see the light.
Yep. And the funny backstory is that we weren't supposed to like hand pick people to be in our group as a coach, but I was like, I must work with this girl. Oh my gosh. So
when you told me that originally, I was like, no,
picked you from the litter.
I loved it. I was like, I could not believe that you actually felt that way. It made me feel so good because it was true. I was like, yeah, this is the girl. I'm excited. Okay, let's dive in, babe. I know that we've been talking about like
I'm back.
Like the ingredients of exploring communication, and you said there's like 3 important ones. Can you dive deep a little bit on what that's all about?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So I have a method that I use called connected communication. And basically, there's like 3 elements to communication. And it's probably not going to be a surprise to you, but it might be a good reminder. So those 3 are energy, actions, and words. And of course, the nonverbal and the verbal. And we usually have the words going on. The words are usually free flowing, right? But not so much the energy or the vibe, and sometimes not so much the actions, right? So like we forget about our vibe. Like even if you're showing up and verbally taking responsibility for something, but your energy is still blame energy, well, yeah, your partner's going to get defensive and maybe shut down or blow up, right? So yeah, really kind of tuning into that.
I love it. And especially, and can you explain a little bit more on the energy side of it for people? Because I know energy is such like a loaded word these days. So
It is, yeah. And so, yeah, another way of saying it is like who you're being, which is also kind of a like what does that really mean? And you know, a good, like, this is a good example that I use. Like, it's different from how you're feeling. How you're being, your energy is different from how you're feeling. So say you were gonna go do a speech, right? And you're feeling maybe anxious or nervous or like hesitant, right, to get on stage and speak, but you can be courageous. You can be, you know, vulnerable. You can be in your worth and still go and show up and powerfully speak, even though you're feeling kind of funky. So that definitely applies to your relationship as well, especially when it comes to communication, where you're like, oh, like I'm feeling angry. I'm like feeling pissed off or agitated, but I'm going to be calm. I'm going to be vulnerable. I'm going to be curious, patient, open.
I love this because honestly, I was just practicing this last night. For me, I've been doing a lot of therapy lately just because I'm one of those people who really likes to challenge my ways of thinking and see where I come from on things. And with that in particular, last night I had a massive test that I had to do, and I have been dreading this test because in my mind, I have told myself for years that I'm not good at tests and I can't do that. And it's absolute bullshit. All of that. That's like these lies that we tell ourselves. But I feel like the feelings I was feeling of being insecure around it and scared were still there. But at this point, I was like, you know what? I'm going to, it's almost like the intention that you bring to it is the energy.
Yeah.
And the intention was, no, I'm going to make this happen. And I did. And that's the amazing part about it is I just kept telling myself, no, you can't make this happen. So it is the energy you bring to it, which I love.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Awesome. And then you were telling me, and I'm so curious to learn more about this, but you have this thing called the connected communication method. And I'm very interested to know more about that. Because does that go into the different attachment styles, or is that separate?
It actually can help you move into secure attachment. So it's a communication method where you're using those three ingredients of energy, actions, and words, right? But you're also checking out the internal conversation you're having with yourself. Like, how do you show up for you? What are you saying to you inside of here? Like, what's the internal communication happening? And then you also are checking out that external communication that you're having with your partner or parent or whoever it may be. And so obviously, like, this internal dialogue and conversation impacts the external one and vice versa. So yeah, with connected communication, it is a process, and there is like a kind of framework that I use when you're actually having the external conversation with your partner. But I would say it is more of a process because you're like really diving into thought work and your belief systems. And the way that it does tie into attachment styles, which is so cool, is that our attachment styles, like, I like to look at them as habits. Like, it's like this pattern that we've been in since childhood. And, you know, this pattern was created by XYZ. Like, we taught our brains and bodies to react a certain way. We learned it somewhere. And with any other habit, you can also teach your brain to unlearn that habit. So with connected communication, the process that actually like heals the anxious attached or avoidant attached styles is when we're looking at the internal dialogue, right? Because there's probably a lot of thoughts and beliefs like, I don't really know what I want and need. And even if I did, I'm not going to communicate it because they might abandon me. They might leave me, you know, like, I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy, right? So yeah, the process definitely can heal those attachment styles and move you into secure attachment.
Yeah, I've been learning this so much. And for everyone, some different, I think what are the attachment styles are avoidance, anxious,
and disorganized is kind of a combination of both.
Right.
Yeah. And then secure, where like, and the best way I describe secure attachment is, you know, your belief system is like, my needs matter just as much as your needs.
Right.
And in that space, you're able to, you know, show up and ask for what you want and need. And you're also able to like hear your partner's needs and give them what they want and need. And the other piece about a secure attachment and a secure relationship is that you're able to repair, and you're able to like come together, and have a conversation, even if you're, you know, like hate being vulnerable, you're scared, whatever, like you can still show up and like repair whatever, like you're not afraid to repair. You're okay coming back together and doing that work.
Yeah. And I think that is like one of the things these days that a lot of people are afraid to do, is because we have this idea, especially, I mean, I don't know if this is something that you witness, but like in hookup culture in general, in, you know, cancel culture and all this stuff, it's never about actually sitting with the person and having the conversation, because we're too scared to even have it. I personally think that's what the thing is. It's not that, you know, we're being like too stubborn or anything like that. I think we're just afraid to have these conversations with people.
Yeah. And you know why, like for any of you here, like if you've experienced that, like being afraid to share your wants and needs, especially in dating, right? Like what's the fear there? I'm curious if anyone wants to share, like what's that deep rooted fear. And Ashley and I can share ours.
Oh my gosh, I have so many to tell you. I know that somebody already asked a question. Someone said, I'm dating an avoidant partner and I'm an anxious partner. What are the best ways to become more secure or to be better at communicating my needs to her? And that's so funny because I am actually very anxious. Like, woo, I used to be a very anxious attachment style, and I've moved to secure so much more now. It's beautiful.
Yes.
But yeah. Did you get that question all right? You want me to repeat it?
Yeah. So what I got is I believe the person said they're anxious, attached, they're dating, and avoidant.
Right.
Yeah, totally. And so how do you move that into secure? Well, and we can kind of tag team this because I'm sure you have your own ideas too with all the work that you've done around this. But yeah. Oh my God, when did we meet? Like 4 years ago? I feel like I told you about that book Attached, and you're like,
oh my God,
what?
I love that book so much. Highly recommend for anyone. Attached is a fantastic book. You must get in your repertoire.
Oh yeah, check that out. So it is a process. This is not an overnight thing, right? But so you can't control your partner's side of the street, like the person who's avoidant, but you can influence and impact them by doing your own work. And, you know, some of the, like, really, like, it all comes down to worthiness in my lens, right? Like, if you're in your worth, you're like, I know what I want and need, and I'm not afraid to communicate it. And you're not afraid also to like invite them in to share their own needs. Doing inner child work, like giving your inner child the stuff that little child needed and didn't get from a parent maybe, or whoever, you know, whoever the primary caretaker was, right? Like going back and doing that inner child work and really like nurturing and caring for that inner child is like typically where I start this work. What do you think, Ashley?
Well, I absolutely agree with you. I mean, it all starts with you first and controlling what's going on within you before you can get over to the next person. But I absolutely agree. I think the only thing that I would add to that is really that, you know, when you are dating somebody, like you really want to be as forward with what you need as possible without creating the fear of rejection around it. So for me, I am a very anxious, or I used to be a very anxious. I'm trying to make sure that I word myself, because word talk is like word magic to me is a real thing. But yeah, I was gonna say, when I used to be anxious, like my thing is that I used to be a super huge people pleaser, and a lot of anxious attachment styles happen to be that way because they sacrifice their needs in order to feel this false sense of security or false sense of love through things. And I recognize that because I wanted so badly to have somebody around me or to have this idea of a perfect relationship, I would sacrifice my own needs and be like, oh, yeah, I see your point. That makes sense that you wouldn't do those things for me. And I just realized, like, no, like, those things need to be baseline. And to be able to get to that, you really have to communicate fully and create boundaries as hard as they are, and just say straight up, like, look, I need you to pay more attention to me sometimes, and that's just a need that I have. If you respect me and love me as a person, like, I need to be able to communicate with you more, and I know that's going to be uncomfortable for a little bit, but it can start to be something great, and it doesn't need to be weird. Like, this conversation doesn't need to be weird. I had a conversation with a guy about, like, I think it was probably 5 months ago. I remember this very specifically because some things came up in it. And it was definitely one of those situations where it was starting to look like I was becoming a little anxious and he was looking a little avoidant. And I just like backed up a second, and because he told me, he's like, why are we even having this conversation? It's too new. I'm like, okay, whoa. And then I kind of like centered again, and I was like, look, it is not weird that we are having a conversation to understand each other better. There is nothing weird about that. In fact, it's the healthiest thing that we could do right now. So I think a big part, and he ended up, by the way, it took a little bit of working out to, get him to understand where I'm coming from. But then we were able to have a great conversation and bring it back together. He was able to apologize on his behalf, and I was able to understand him more on where he was coming from. And I think in that situation is you have to become more solid in yourself to be able to actually have these conversations with somebody. So it's almost like we were talking about that energy feeling. Like, you might be feeling scared or like you're going to get rejected, but you have to put out the energy of, no, this is what I want. And this is serious. And like, it doesn't have to be like serious in a way that's not fun, but it does have to be taken seriously in a way that, hey, we could be better than this right now. Why is that weird to you? Or why is that something that you fear? Like, let's bring it in. Let's remember that we can be better together.
Yeah, 100%. And it like I said, like anxious attachment or avoidant, right? Like there's a habit going on, and the biggest habit to tune into are our thoughts and our feelings. And like, for instance, so say you haven't heard from the person you're dating in a couple of days, and you're like, you notice that same feeling that, like we can start to label it, right? Like, oh, there's that, anxious attachment again. And I also like to like label these voices in my head, right? Because it's like this internal dialogue, and it's like anxious Angie, whatever you want to call her, right? It's like, I hear you, anxious Angie. Like, okay. And, like, so my tendency in the past, like being a healed, anxious attached person, right? Like, if I hadn't heard from him in a few days, I'd like want to reach out and text and like, like I need that connection again to know that I'm okay, to know that we're okay, and whatever it is. And so what you can do, like in the moment when you notice yourself like wanting to chase or text or whatever it is, right? Like, catch that, like, anxious Angie is back again. I hear you, I see you. And then tuning in to like, what feeling am I feeling in my body? Like, what's happening here? Like literally like doing like a thought dump. Like, what are all the thoughts that I'm having?
Right.
Because when you can start to bring awareness to actually, like, my thing is I like to demystify attachment styles, because it's this kind of elusive thing and whatever. Like, no, like, let's just ABC this shit. Like, get those thoughts down, because those thoughts are all the things that are like triggering the attachment style to activate, and then you act on it, right? And end up chasing, or, you know, whatever it may be, right? So we got to get really clear on, especially in the moment, if you're like, oh, I really need to reach out and text this person, thought
Right.
dump, write them all down.
That's such great advice. Yeah, I feel like, and it's interesting when we talk about like in the moment, it can be really hard. And I know it's like, and I don't want to give people excuses, because I've also been trying to say to myself that the idea of, you know, but easier said than done is kind of like an easy excuse. But I also want to bring people the awareness that we are healing, we are growing. This isn't like an overnight process. And even now, right now, I caught myself just recently in a dating situation where I couldn't see that the guy was saying something that I didn't like in the moment. That is, in which it's still the people pleasing part of me is coming out sometimes. And and I want people to recognize that you should not get down on yourself if you have these moments where you're like, oh, why didn't I recognize that in the moment? The fact that you can recognize it afterwards is like such
Huge.
a huge thing. Like, these are huge moments. Like, if you can even recognize it the day after or 3 hours after, the more that you keep practicing that, the faster it'll come to you. And then you will eventually get to the point where you can say these things straight up right in front of them and not feel like, oh, why did I not say something in the moment? It's okay. Sometimes we've been trained. Our brains have been trained this way. So it takes a moment to really like switch that gear and bring it into the moment. So I just wanted to put that out there, because I know a lot of people are like, oh, you know, I'm not, you know, advancing fast enough, or why didn't I do that in that moment? It's like, you know what? These are all just observations. You observe and then you correct as you go.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. It's all just information, and it's bringing awareness to it. So if you're like, okay, I am like, whether I'm avoidant or anxious or a mix, like I'm ready to deal with this, right? I'm ready to commit to this. It's just like bringing awareness to, like, when do you notice you wanting to run away if you're anxious? And when do you notice, or no, if you're avoidant, right? And then if you're anxious, like, when do you notice like needing that connection? And yeah, like, in the example of, say you haven't heard from them for a few days, right? Or like you've texted a couple times and you haven't gotten anything back, and you start to notice this familiar feelings, right? Like, if you can catch yourself in the moment and notice, like, okay, what I really want to do right now is send another text. Like, I want to send a fourth text today because I haven't.
Where the fuck are you?
Yes, right? Like, if you're like, oh, like, I need to send this text, like, what is it that you're seeking? Like, what is the unmet need there? And then how can you provide that for yourself? Yeah. Like, not needing to rely on them to show up for you. Like, how can you show up for you?
Oh, I have such a good example of this recently. And I actually needed a friend to kind of show me the way on this too, because it's so true. And then I'm going to get to this other person's question. But I noticed, I met this guy and I was dating him, and I was feeling like intense groundedness around him. He was really good at making me feel grounded. And I went on this vacation to Sedona, and I kept thinking about it. And I'm like, I just really appreciate so much about how he makes me grounded. And my friend actually like pointed it out, but she was like, have you ever thought that maybe you're the one that's grounding yourself, and that you can create that for yourself at any moment, since you created it for yourself in that moment? And I was like,
yes.
You know? And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So the entire trip, I practiced grounding myself in my own like essence of what did that feel like? What was that essence that happened in that moment? And how can I bring that to now? And I've been doing it so much more lately, and it feels so good. And I'm like, yes, any of those emotions and feelings that you want to create in a relationship, you have to know how to create them for yourself first to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
And so, okay, we've got Galaxy Main Show over here. He says, I'm currently dating this girl at the moment, but I'm scared after my first relationship if I'm going to get hurt again, because this year I had a girlfriend with my first girlfriend that I met, and she was depressed, saying she was going to commit self-harm to herself, and then she asked me to have a baby with her. Whoa, okay. Or she and I could not be together. Ooh, an ultimatum. And things she said, And then she put me up for domestic violence in court this year. Whoa, okay. So I'm scared about if this same thing is going to happen with this new girl and she won't like me for me. That's a lot to digest. And I just want to say congratulations for not being in that other relationship. It seems like somebody needed some time to herself to figure out life. And I know that we can't always fix people. And that's a huge thing for people pleasers is we tend to fix, and that is not our job. So about going into another relationship, knowing that you've had some scars from other relationships, like what do you feel about that?
Yeah, that can be really tough because, you know, we can bring our past, well, we are always bringing our past into our present, right? Like unless we're intentionally not doing that and, you know, being present, creating from the future. But yeah, like it's easy to drag the old baggage and the old pain into a new relationship. And what I would say to that is what would be really helpful is to actually process that past hurts, like really like process that past relationship. And like one way you could do that is practicing self-forgiveness. Like, wow, like I was in that and maybe there were some red flags that I ignored. But really like having like compassion and forgiveness for yourself. And it was like, wow, like that was, you know, a mistake and I learned from it. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like also catching, like if you're projecting that fear onto this new person, you got to be, you know, careful of that as well, because we can't have these tendencies where it's like, hey, if we really cheated on the past, or maybe we cheated in the past, that we get into a new relationship and we project that shadow aspect, that kind of like reject, you know, it's like, oh, like cheating is bad, you know, and I've had experience with it, I've been hurt from it, right? And then we project that onto the new person that we're with, and there's nothing, you know, no real facts and groundedness in that. But yeah, it's just catching the awarenesses.
Yeah, that's it can be very hard too, because again, that can be all the way traced back to childhood and things that have come up in childhood. And I know that is constantly something that people are going to be dealing with their entire life, of things that were not exactly who, it's like the way that we've been trained is not who we are as an actual person. It's the way we were trained. So sometimes we have a hard time separating that. And until we can kind of wake up from that, we can bring in a lot of our unhealthy traits that we didn't even know were unhealthy from our old childhood, from our parents passing that down, generations of passing that down. So I think it's like so integral for people to really check in with themselves. And, you know, they say it all the time, you know, take some time for yourself before you get out into the dating world. And, you know, the more that I realize how true that is, it's very integral to take the time for yourself. Not that you can't heal within a relationship, because I just want to put it out there. It is possible to do the same in a relationship, but that also means taking space for yourself and really making sure and being open and honest. And you can even say, I mean, I'm telling you this because I believe that the partner you're supposed to be with, whoever, the Galaxy Man Show, yes, he's saying it too. Oh, thank you so much. You are so sweet. But I was going to tell you that it can be done within a relationship, because you can sit there and take your time. And if you want to have this conversation with this person, I truly believe the people that you are supposed to be with, you can literally tell them anything. You can tell them anything. And if this person can't accept that you've got baggage and that you've been doing things, that you've had a really crazy past with this person that you dated before, and you can even be open and honest and say, hey, I want to let you know, like, this is what I came from, and I'm really open to being in a new relationship. I just need somebody who's going to understand and help me feel more secure and trusting in a relationship now that I've had that experience. And if anything like that comes up where you feel like I'm putting you in a box or making you feel like the other person, please let me know. Let's talk about that. I don't want to be afraid of that. So I love that. And I think, you know, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to talk you through that. And yes, back to that too. Erica, I have to ask you, and you can ask me too, but
yes.
What is it like being a relationship coach and dating? Like, it blows my mind. I'm always shook when it's like, oh geez, here we go.
Oh my God. Yeah, it is really a funny concept. And I get this question on TikTok all the time, like comments like, oh, I wonder what it's like dating a relationship coach or being married to a relationship coach. And it's like, yeah, that is kind of funny. Yeah, so what it's been like for me is very, like, it's hard not to assess and analyze, because it's like I see things. Attachment styles, right? It's like, let's just look at that. Like, I can kind of like pick up on whether this person is, secure or anxious or avoidant. But that doesn't always mean that, like, in my own personal dating process that I I still have my, like, well, here's the other interesting thing too. Depending on who shows up in your life, it can trigger like either avoidant or anxious or a combination. It's not like you're just always the same thing over and over again perfectly, right? So like I can see myself like with a certain person, either like my old anxious attached patterns might get triggered here and there, which might trigger their avoidant patterns. Like it really is this dance that I notice. And it can be very fluid. And so, yeah, like attachment styles can be very fluid. It really isn't a black and white thing. Yes, we can lean toward one over the other for sure. But yeah, it's interesting because I actually I was thinking, oh my God, like who's gonna wanna date a relationship coach? That was a belief of mine. I'm like, oh my God, should I tell them I'm just like a general life coach? Like, because I don't want them to think that they're just going to be like analyzed in a petri dish the whole time. But they kind of are. But
yeah. Well, I love that because honestly, I tend to be a lot like that because I am hugely into psychology. So a lot of times that gets brought up in conversation and whatnot.
Yeah.
I think the only thing that I've seen that I want to make sure of when it comes to that is that it doesn't become a therapy session every time. Like, I'm sure you can understand this too, because, at one point I was dating a guy who constantly was coming to me with, who wants to talk about his past and he wants to talk about all these things. And I noticed, oh my God, this is becoming a pattern where this is all we're doing. And we're not actually having fun. We're not doing anything. We're just talking about problems, which
I am your therapist.
Fine. Yeah. I'm sure. Like, do you have this issue sometimes?
I have not had that. I feel like, because of course it's like as within, so without. Like in the space that I'm in, I feel it has appeared that I kind of attract in people who are also on their journey. They're not like in the dark about all this stuff. They've done their own work. And so they don't have it's like an interesting thing that we can kind of like on the same level talk back and forth about a little bit. But yeah, like I haven't had that experience yet.
I'm so glad for you.
But I mean, I can imagine, I could see how that might go down. But one of my friends actually, who is a counselor, had that happen with a guy, which was it's interesting.
You're like, so are you gonna start paying me for these? And also we might have to stop dating.
Yes, actually, yes. They made that transition. Like, this isn't gonna work out romantically, but like I will work with you if you want. And
oh my God. That is awesome, though, that she was able to transition that so smoothly.
Totally. Yeah. It was very fresh in, but.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. We've got Instant Rum says, if you're taking questions, dating but not seeing a long-term future with her, but also really enjoying dating still, how to approach, have the combos, etc. Are you saying that you want to have the conversation about not seeing a future and just wanting to date? I'm guessing is what I see from that question. That is a really great question, honestly.
Yeah.
I have that question.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, the truth, like, truth with kindness is always the best route. And yeah, it's not to say too, like, it's also not to say that right now you don't see a future, but like as you continue to get to know her, maybe you'll see something, right? Maybe that connection is not always right away. Like it can absolutely be like a slow evolvement. Like we don't always have to just fall in love. Like it doesn't always work that way, right? So yeah, you know, I would say too, like, if you'd have to get really clear, like, what are your non-negotiables in who you want? And if there's something on that non-negotiable list, then it's like you have to just ask yourself, well, and you can see that she wants something deeper. You have to ask yourself, like, what am I doing here? And like, what do I need? What do I want out of this? Because like clearly, like, she's not in my future, but I just want to keep having fun, right? Like it's not super fair to the other person if they're like, no, I want to go deeper with you. I want a relationship with you, right? Like it never turns out nicely, right? When one person wants when you're wanting two different things. So yeah.
And I feel like that's so true. I mean, I see that for myself because I know a lot of guys that I've met or have dated over the years, like their intention was to just have a good time and to, you know, go ahead and, you know, whether that's a sexual thing or whatever. And for me, sex, to be able to even have sex, I need to have the emotional connection. I need to have the safety of feeling like I'm in a committed relationship.
Yeah.
And that might be a thing that I have been taught over time, but as I've grown into life, I have seen the importance of that and how nice that is to be able to have somebody to rely on in those situations. So that is important to me. So when a guy tells me something like, oh, all of a sudden they break it on me, like, oh, hi, yeah, I just wanted to have fun and this is getting too serious, then in my eyes, I'm like, oh, wow, like, I'm glad you said these things to me. Even if I get, and here's the thing, is even if this girl gets angry at you, like, at least she's showing you the truth. At least you're telling your truth. And now you both can, like, figure it out from there. And sometimes people change their mind in the moment and they're like, okay, what are my immediate needs versus my overall needs? And maybe it's possible to intertwine both of those for now until, you know, we move towards something else and figure it out as we go. And of course, like the idea of, you know, life happens when you're making plans type of thing comes into play. So if somebody's enjoying the moment and you're clearly communicating your boundaries. So like for me, if I'm going to be dating somebody who's not interested in like a long-term situation or who isn't interested in a committed sort of situation, more than likely I'm not going to be having sex with them. However, that doesn't mean that I don't necessarily want to be hanging out with them either. So if I can create a boundary where let's not talk about sex or let's not like pursue the sexual part of this and let's just focus on being in this relationship of whatever this is right now, then that can happen. It's really... And it doesn't have to be black and white. You can literally make your own fucking menu for your relationship. Everyone's relationships are different.
Yeah, it's so true. And yeah, you know, with the conversations to actually share your truth, right? Like I love to like have check-ins, like ask her like, hey, like, can we have just a little check-in to do like an alignment where we both share like where we are and, you know, what we're thinking. And actually a guy that I'm dating right now is so sweet. He's like, I call it like head and heart conversations, or like the head and the heart. Like, how's your head? How's your heart? Like, where are you? And
so
it's just, I'm such a big fan of the check-ins and actually like scheduling that too. So it's not just like you catch her off guard or whatever, be like, hey, yeah, let's like honor what we've had here and like, yeah, have a just like, this is what's true for me right now. And I just wanted to share that with you.
That is absolutely amazing. And that is like ultimate goals. Like, honestly,
more people could start to do that and actually start being super forward about things, then the more people would have like these great relationships. And maybe they're not like long-term relationships, they're just friendships. This can literally be applied to any relationship.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is fantastic. And yeah, I truly believe that the more that people put out there exactly what they're feeling, and it's just like the freedom behind that. I don't know about you feeling this, but like to be able to just speak your mind and be fluid about everything that you're going on in your life is real.
Totally. And here's what's cool too, is like however that girl responds or reacts to your truth might either like be like, oh, actually I'm really done with this and I actually don't want to keep having fun, or it might draw you in and be like, whoa, she has like a layer to her that I didn't see before. Yes. Right? So it's like these layers of intimacy that these conversations invite and open up.
And I also feel like these conversations don't have to be scary. They can be fun and light, and you can perform it however the heck you want. And it can be exciting for the other person too. Like, I really like you. This is really cool. Like, here's interpretive dance of what I'm doing. Now let's talk about what's really going on.
Yes, yeah, totally. Yeah,
setting up so serious about everything in sex these days.
Totally. Yeah, coming into that conversation like either like with a lighthearted kind of like silly, playful, energetic thing, or like bring in the energy, getting the energy aligned, right? Like, or you know, in the past, how I've done it is like, hey, like let's create this conversation. You know, like what do we both want to bring into this conversation as far as like energy goes? Like it might be truth and like lightheartedness, playfulness, love, thoughtfulness, you know, like create it and like do like 3 deep breaths so your like nervous system calms down a little bit.
Yes.
And yeah, like just create that intentional space to have these conversations.
Yeah, and I think people get afraid to have that like really groundedness within the conversation, because some people probably feel like they're wasting their time by having these conversations, and or I already know what their reaction is going to be. The already always listening, as we've heard before. Yeah. Bringing some landmarks there. But yeah, like coming back to, you have no idea what's going to happen here. Grounding yourself in the moment, actually giving the person the shot to have their side of the story too, so that they're not in the dark. And then you guys can create from there. That's like the space of creation of when you have no idea. You have no idea what's coming next, but you're being truthful in yourself. So as soon as that happens, oh my God, all the doors start flowing open. And you can start finding somebody who's on the same exact line as you, or like you were saying, somebody who surprises you and makes you see something that you didn't even know was going to happen. So I love that. I hope that helps, Instant Rome. I think that was a great question. Thank you so much. Let's see if we've got, is this, yep. I had somebody asked if I have a boyfriend. I don't have a boyfriend. Not sure if I'm wanting it. I don't know. We'll see. It's funny, Erica, the more that I come into the dating world and come into learning more about myself, I question myself. Why do I want to be in a relationship? Like, why is that so important to me? Is that something that needs to be happening right now? And for me, I'm not really sure at this point. I'm still trying to discover whether it is something that I need, because quite frankly, I'm really enjoying the process of being single the more that I understand it.
Yes. Oh my God. No, because it's like all the stuff that, and I feel the same way right now. It's like all the stuff we were like externally seeking, like the validation, the attention, the affirmation, like whatever it is, the love, the external shit. Like it's because you and I are both have sourced it now from the inside. They were like, I don't know if I need you like, right now. Like this is fun. You're kind of like a cherry on top, but like I don't need this, which is really cool. It's like such a powerful place to be.
Oh, I know. And it's funny because these days it's like I've studied kind of the way that relationships have worked over centuries and history and all this stuff, and a lot of the reason why, I'm just speaking from a woman's point of view right now, why women decided to get in relationships was because of security, because of safety, because of, you know, being able to survive, really.
Yeah.
And now that we don't really have those needs anymore and women are able to be seen on an equal pedestal, it's like, okay, what are you really bringing to the table? I already got that.
Yes.
You know, and it's kind of funny. So yeah, I think for guys, and it's such a huge transition as a whole conscious, like full-on community. Like for guys, I feel like they're gonna need to start, you know, stepping up in a way that they've never done before, or maybe are learning how to do or have done, and just be able to be honest, to step up in a more emotional way, which I already see happening so much, which is a beautiful thing. I love seeing that. And there's so much more truth in that. And that's, I think, more for me, at least, honesty has always been like number one to me. That's the sexiest thing a guy could be, is honest, somebody who calls me out, all those things. Like, I need that. That's what I need. I don't need your money. I don't need like your attention all the time. Like, I need somebody who's going to help me be a better person. That's what the new need is. I don't know about you, but that's how I feel.
Hell yeah, amen, sister. And yeah, I mean, it's moving like societally, like collectively, we're moving from this like codependence to interdependence. And some of us get stuck in the independence where it's like two people kind of live in parallel. It's like, I don't need you, I don't need you. Right. But no, like, yeah, it's like, you know, those phases of relationship, like, yeah, codependence, where we're like, we are like so reliant on each other and our needs are enmeshed and intertwined and there's no real boundaries, right? Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it's that is the shift. And men are being called to step into that emotional maturity and emotional intelligence, and also like identity fluidity, like for both men and women and anyone in between, right? Like, like who's to say, like, yeah, I couldn't be the breadwinner and you couldn't be the stay-at-home dad, right? Like, we know that happens. It's not like totally the norm yet, but yeah, like who's to say that the, you know, the man, if it is heterosexual, right? Like the man couldn't be the one to say, like, tune into the emotions more and like, hey, like, I'm feeling like this. And maybe the female is a little bit more emotionally shut down. Like there is this like fluidity to it all.
Yeah, nobody's the same. Every relationship is literally so different in itself. And that's why I think trying to fit people into a box, going back to what Instagram was saying of like, I don't know if I want to be with this person forever. That's totally normal. Like that happens all the time. And that's okay. And that's the beauty of relationships, is they come in and out of our lives. And trying to find somebody who's on the same level as you is so integral. And that's why it's okay to let people come and go and to really focus on what you really want, so you can start finding that. And it's brilliant. And I think I'm starting to see, you know, I don't want to throw guys under the bus. I know for us women, I think something that we're working on as like, I don't know about you, but just as a conscious community and as overall as women, I think for us, something that we can start working on is learning how to make our emotions more artful, and to bring them to it like more playful, more, you know, raw. And like when you're angry, and just be like, I'm angry right now, so I'm gonna scream right now. I'm gonna scream and get like funny. Like you can have fun in the midst of being angry, and that's the crazy thing about all of this. And also just for women, I want us all to be just so much more grounded in who we are. Like that's something that we can start to really love on ourselves and all the things that we want, and validating that those are real needs. Like none of us are crazy. We aren't crazy. And if we can start remembering that, and remembering that we have validated emotions, and that these are ways of being able to teach other people by being completely vulnerable as who you are. Because the more that you allow yourself, and this goes for guys and girls, the more that you allow yourself to be exactly who you are, as weird as you are, as funky, crazy, straight, freaking, you know, serious, whatever you are, like be that. Just be that fully, and incorporate that and enjoy that to the fullest. And the more that you can express that, like for me, I love to entertain. So like what I'm trying to bring more into relationships is just like that entertainment, like like I was saying, like if I'm angry, I'm like, this is me angry. Like I don't know. Something like that. And then it breaks the silence, makes people feel a little bit more like a human, and they can approach you in a way that's not going to scare the shit out of themselves.
Yeah. Oh my God. Bringing humor into stuff is like, one of the, I mean, especially like if you do notice if something's tense, whether you or your partner, whoever you're dating, right? If like there's tension in the air, if you can like somehow bring humor into it, to kind of like keep things from escalating, like that is the best tool ever.
Oh yeah. There was another really good one, because I just recently listened to this girl about how she was having trouble like in sexual relations with her man, because she would be turned on at one point and he wouldn't like come on to her, and then then it would be the opposite. He'd come onto her and she wasn't into it, and so they created this like fun like code word or code phrase to help out, and it was, tonight, what was it? Tonight's really nice, or something like that, or this like phrase, just really simple, so that it could be like fit into the conversation without it being like pineapple, something like that. And they said that it like helped out their relationship so much because it wasn't awkward. It was a code word for him to be like, oh, this is it. I know what to do now. Like, and it was like fun. Oh, is it that time? Okay.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I love that. I want to create more of that. Well, I know we're getting close to the end, so let's see if we have anybody else that had any questions. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I would love to work together for the muscle design. Let's see. Is there any other questions? Anybody have any questions? I don't think so. Okay, that was it. Okay, well, now that we're close to the end, I just want to ask you, have Instagram. Is there any other ways? Like, can you shout out how people can get connected with you and what you got going on coming up here that they can dive in deeper with this?
Oh yes, absolutely. So yeah, if you're interested in seeing more about what I do, my TikTok is on fire right now. It's the same as this, so it's at the Wright Erica. It's my last name, WRIGHTERICA. So yeah, at the Wright Erica on Instagram and TikTok, and the link in my bio. If you're like, like how does this apply to me personally, and you want to hop on a consultation clarity call with me, you can go ahead and book one. They are totally free. They are awesome. Those calls in themselves are so transformational. We'll get right to the root of whatever the heck is actually going on and create basically a plan to move forward. And
she will. She'll call your ass out. She called my ass out. So.
Oh yeah. They are no joke.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, Erica, relationship expert and coach. It's been such a fucking honor to sit here and talk to you about this. It's like one of my favorite topics to talk about with you, and I'm so thankful for all your help in my life and all the brightness that you bring to everybody else in the world. Erica, love you. Have a good day.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been such a pleasure. And yeah, if anyone has any other questions, DM me. I answer my DMs, and we can go from there.
Awesome. Okay, babe. Okay. Have a good one.
Love you, girl.
Bye.